for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre, McGuire, and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche And after 22 years, Raymond Mark!
The sickest NHL podcast. It's gonna be sick.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to Lafleur. Oh!
The defenseman all the way up forward, tries to trickle it middle. Subban can't block it past McQuaid. Lucic, top of the circle. Horton, the drive, score! The Bruins knock out Montreal!
Couldn't find it. Here's Eller. Subban out of the box. Subban on a breakaway. He scores!
Probably one of those guys you want on your own team, but I thought we did a good job of containing that line and making sure we limit their opportunities. Listen, we're moving on. Character bunch of guys, and there's not a better group of guys that I want to do it with.
Congratulations. We'll see you Saturday afternoon in Montreal for Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Final, PK.
Yeah, baby.
And welcome to TD Garden here, the Boston Bruins, Montreal Canadiens tonight. Pierre, McGuire, and I are here up in the press box. And Pierre, I got to say, what was that kiss like?
Oh, it's surprisingly refreshing. There you go, PK. He did a good job. That was an amazing night working with Kenny Albert that night here at TD Bank. And I think one of the best parts about being in the building that night was you could feel it right from the start, Jimmy. I believe you were here as well.
Yep.
Montreal, Boston never gets old. Even if the teams are great, even if the teams aren't so great, it never gets old. It's an unbelievable rivalry, and it's one that will last forever.
Yeah, it really is, Pierre. And that's one question of the day we actually tweeted out earlier, and I want you guys to continue to flow those memories in. Was what is your favorite Bruins Habs memory? And there's already so many I've seen on Twitter. Pierre, we'll get to yours in a bit, but I grew up going to the old Garden with my grandfather, Pierre, and I mean that rivalry was instilled in me. And I think one of the greatest accomplishments for me in my career, Pierre, has been able to cover both sides of that rivalry, to be able to work in Montreal and cover it from the Canadiens' perspective, and then obviously all the years covering the Bruins. But that year, that Game 7, I was actually working for TSN and NHL.com covering the Canadiens. And I just remember going back to that city after that game, and I think we got in at like maybe 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, and the place was still, people in the street still partying. It was something else. That was an amazing run by the Canadiens. But you've seen way more than me, Pierre, and I know one stands out more than the others, eh?
It does. Am I supposed to answer that now or wait till later?
Well, you know what? Let's wait. Let's play some games right now. Let's go through what we saw last night because, look, I'll tell you, there were some really good games and there were some really bad games. But let's start with the one a lot of our listeners are glued to, and that is the Montreal Canadiens and Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, look, the Montreal Canadiens got the win. Samuel Montembeault was amazing between the pipes. He deserves a lot of credit. But other than that, if I'm a Montreal Canadiens fan, I'm not really celebrating too much. I'm more worried.
Well, I like the fact they scored a power play goal. I think
that is a good positive. Yep.
Cole Caulfield. I think that's 3 straight years that Cole's got the first goal for the Montreal Canadiens. Last person to do that in Montreal Canadiens history was Vinny Donfuss, 92, 93, 94. So that's a pretty substantial accomplishment for Cole. There were some good things. I thought Arbor Jackeye played a good game. I thought he was stout. I thought Caden Gooley played a good game. I thought he was stout. I thought there were moments that Michael Matheson was outstanding transporting the puck. But I'm going to go back to it. I don't want to dwell on negatives, but there's no reason why he should not have been on the ice for the 5-on-3 power play. I thought about Lane Hudson, not Michael Matheson, and I think the stats will bear me out on that. But, if you're giving up 50 shots a game, Jimmy, and I'm just being fair here. I'm not picking Toronto over Montreal or Montreal over Toronto. But if you're giving up over 50 shots or close to it, not good. Canadians going to have to tighten up. They're going to have to be a lot better.
And I shouldn't say worry is not a word, but concern. Just, I see a lot of fans up in Montreal right now on social media saying, oh, this is great. They're going to the playoffs. They won it's one game. And it's one game in the sense of the positives. and it's one game in the sense of the negatives. And I said the same thing yesterday, Pierre, when we were talking about the Bruins-Panthers. So, a lot of Bruins fans are ready to jump off the Tobin Bridge. It's one game. But you do have to recognize, as you said, the things you need to correct. And I think one of those, as you said, would be to get Lane Hudson on that number one power play.
That'd be one. Two would be tighten up in your own zone. Stop giving up so many point shots or potential point shots. I think their matchups could be better, especially on the back end. When you're looking at Austin Matthews, you're looking at Willie Nylander, you're looking at Mitchell Marner, you're looking at players, Matthew Nyes, that can make a difference. So you got to have the right matchup. But I saw more positive than negative from Montreal. Way more positive than negative. Now, let's put it this way. Montreal comes to Boston. It's a back-to-back for them. Boston obviously had a day off yesterday. But you think about it for Toronto, they're going into Jersey tonight. They're going against their old coach. They don't want to lose because guess what? On Saturday night, they're playing Pittsburgh at home.
Yep.
So, the season's early. I'm playing off of what you're saying, Jimmy, because I agree with you. The season's early. But is it really early?
I know.
You know what I mean? It could steamroll out of control pretty quick for a lot of these teams.
Yep. And, of course, in this game, we'll talk about the games tonight. But note, in case nobody saw, Jeremy Swayman is a confirmed starter for the Bruins. We'll get to that in a bit. All right, Pierre, let's go to the other games there. By the way, one more thing I want to say about the Canadiens, and more specifically their fans. What a classy ovation they gave Patrick Laine there. To me, it looked like he was fighting back some tears. I don't think he expected that, Pierre. And again, we talk about the Bruins-Canadiens rivalry, but one thing I learned when I was up in Montreal is nobody does pregame ceremonies better than the Montreal Canadiens. And the fans know the game. They understand the moment. So kudos to them for what they did for him last night.
That starts at the ownership level. The Molson family is fantastic when it comes to that stuff. Chantal Maccabee, our good friend, she's tremendous when it comes to media relations. The creativity of the front office, and I'm talking about the marketing people, having a band on the ice. I thought that was great.
Orchestra.
I thought that was really special. Opening night in Montreal is special. It really is. It's special everywhere, but in Montreal, it's just a little extra special. And you can ask any player that's ever been there, any coach that's ever been there, or any media member that's ever been there, or any fan that's ever been there. It's a special thing. It really is. So I thought that was great. But to me, the biggest thing was, you touched on it, the applause for Laine, and also the salutation to Mrs. Beliveau.
Yes. Oh, that's amazing.
And so the fact that she's still with us is awesome. And, you showed PK kissing me. I know PK Subban had a really excellent relationship with Mrs. Beliveau. And so, the Canadiens don't miss anything. There are no touches that they miss when it comes to that stuff.
And the torch, always, I love that too. When they pass that torch, it's something else. Yeah. All right, on to the other games there, Pierre. Another game that you would keep an eye on, really wasn't a game, was the New York Rangers going into Pittsburgh. And we've both been on board as saying we do not think the Pittsburgh Penguins are going to the playoffs. And they definitely won't be if they play the way they did in their season opener. 6-0 they lost to the Rangers on home ice. This could get ugly in a hurry for the Pittsburgh Penguins, Pierre.
Tristan Jarry wasn't good enough. Erik Karlsson wasn't good enough. Christopher Letang wasn't good enough. Their team defense wasn't good enough. Their compete level wasn't high enough. I know they don't have Brian Rust. I understand that. I know they don't have Alex Nedeljkovic, who they thought was going to be their starting goalie. I understand that as well. But, Jimmy, the truth of the matter is, you and I both, you said it again, and I'll repeat it for you. We didn't think they were going to be a playoff team going into it. If they are going to make the playoffs, it's going to be because Sidney Crosby has an MVP season and some of their other players, like Lars Eller, step up and deliver in depth positions. And Evgeny Malkin, if that's the best he's got, then Pittsburgh's in big trouble. Evgeny had a bad night last night. Really bad night last night.
And they're going in, we'll get to in a bit, but they're going into Detroit tonight for their home opener there. Everyone's high on Detroit. The expectations are big there. They're going to be revved up. So it's not getting easier schedule-wise for the Pittsburgh Penguins.
No, Jimmy, look, you nailed it. So they go to Detroit tonight. They go to Toronto for Saturday night, national TV.
Another
they go to Montreal for Monday night. And then guess where they are? They're home on Wednesday to play Buffalo.
Yep.
And for Buffalo, every game's a playoff game.
Yeah.
So you think about it realistically. What happens if Pittsburgh starts? They're 0-1 tonight. They're 0-2. Go to Toronto 0-3. Go to Montreal 0-4. You're coming back to stop from going 0-5 against a team that's playing every game like it's a playoff game in Buffalo.
Yeah.
That's not what they were expecting.
No.
That is not what the Pittsburgh Penguins were expecting.
Yep. So it's going to be something to watch there. Let's go around. We look up here. I think another one that people are surprised at, and hey, we talked about it yesterday. I asked you, how do you, when expectations are sky high, they're through the roof, and 90% of the so-called pundits are picking the Edmonton Oilers to win the Stanley Cup. And again, it's one game, but they come out and they laid an egg. There's no other way to say it. They laid an egg in a 6-0 loss to the Jets.
You know me, and you've known me for a long time. I never run with the herd. I formulate my own opinion, and I'll get told what to say and what to do.
Mm-hmm.
I never run with the herd.
Yep.
So I disagree with all those people.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And it's nothing personal against Edmonton. Stan Bowman's a family friend. I respect the heck out of him. Paul Coffey's a player that I coached. I respect the heck out of him. I just told you yesterday about my
the whole coaching stuff. Yep.
I think the world of all those guys. But I don't think they're deep enough on defense. That came through last night, loud and clear. I don't think.
I'm glad you said that, because Stuart Skinner's getting killed right now, and I don't put that all on him by any means.
No. And they're not. Their depth players aren't good enough offensively. I think they're gonna. I don't think they're as good as everybody thinks. I don't think they were as good as everybody thought last year. What camouflages a lot there is they got Connor McDavid, they got Leon Draisaitl. And Zach Hyman is a really good player, 50-goal guy. So, they got a lot of artillery.
Yep.
They don't have a lot of defense. And, Jimmy, Broberg's gone. They were counting on him. Desharnais gone. They liked him a lot. Mm-hmm. If you start looking at it, Evander Kane's not playing.
We don't script this stuff. I was just going to go there to you, and I was going to say, I know it's one game, Pierre, but one guy that I noticed that was not there throughout the whole game, thinking, man, they could really use Kane's presence out there. What he does, he's a detractor. He can score. And as you said, they don't really have a physical presence as a team. When you get a guy like that out there, the other guys start to feel a little bigger and they can go. So they miss him.
They do. They definitely, I think you said something that was really relevant. Stuart Skinner's getting blamed for this. That wasn't on him.
No,
their defense was bad last night. They weren't good. They weren't good. Oh, and Cody Cece's gone.
That's another guy too. He was huge in that locker room here.
I'm trying to think here. Okay, I talked about Desharnais. I talked about Cody Cece's gone.
Yep.
That's another guy from their top six, and a lot of nights he was playing top four.
Yeah.
So I don't know how they're going to do this. I think there are a lot of teams. Vegas showed last night they're good. Colorado showed that they got a chance, even though they lost 8-4. Colorado's way better than that. I know you want to go to that game, so go to the other games, and then we'll finish all up.
Yeah, no problem. But, let's go to that game right now, the Colorado Avalanche. Well, actually, we'll go the early all the way to the latest. We'll start with the Flames because I know our friend Randy Workman has to be a happy person. What a comeback by the Calgary Flames. And, look, I'm not trying to say that the Vancouver Canucks didn't have their issues, and we'll get to that in a second. But for a team that nobody's expecting anything from, to be able to go in there on the season opener in Vancouver and rally like that, and also kind of rally twice, right? Because Vancouver ties it really late on that Miller goal, and yet they still bounce back in overtime. They get the win. So I want to give a lot of credit to the Calgary team there for believing in themselves and sticking to their plan and eventually getting that win, Pierre.
I remember we talked about Artur Silovs yesterday.
Yes.
And how he was going to have to kind of hold the thing together until they got Thatcher Demko back. He wasn't able to hold it together last night. He had a lot of run support, and he couldn't get it done. And I'm not blaming it all on him, just like I'm not blaming it all on Stuart Skinner. Can Vancouver be better defensively? Yes. Can their team be better? Yes. Will they score enough? Absolutely they will. I wouldn't overreact. I think, the fact they got a point out of that last night, they probably deserve two. I cede it all to Calgary playing with a lot of heart. They play with a lot of heart. They took advantage of their opportunities. And I also think they showed that they care about one another as a team. It's probably going to be a long year. But when Kevin Rooney got hit by JT Miller, that team that was a galvanizing moment for that team. Like, when's the last time you saw Anthony Mantha throw down like he did last night with JT Miller?
He had a great game, by the way.
He did. I mean,
he was everywhere.
But when's the last time you saw him throw down? Now, he didn't win the fight, but it doesn't matter. He did it right in front of his bench.
Yep.
And you could see that Rooney thing was a galvanizing moment. And now, first of all, JT Miller, that was a great hit.
Yeah.
He's going to have a huge year.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it just shows you, like, there's a lot of stuff for both teams that I liked in that game last night. I didn't like Vancouver giving up the lead, but I love the way Calgary pushed back, and I didn't have a problem with Calgary not melting down.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Ryan Husker could have melted down after JT Miller tied the game.
Yeah,
that's
what impressed me the most.
Calm.
Yep.
Then the team went out and took advantage of it and scores to win that. You know, so I give him a lot of credit.
And Conazari, what a game for him too.
Well, Connor's a good player, and you know, he's just got to move a little quicker. But he's a really talented kid. He really is.
I like him a lot. All right, let's go to the final game last night. And of course, that was the Vegas Golden Knights hosting the Colorado Avalanche. Kind of had that old school Smythe division shootout, just like the Flames Canucks. The Golden Knights take it 8-4. Pierre, there are a lot of things that I didn't like about Colorado in that game, and the biggest thing to me was their neutral zone play, Pierre. I didn't think it was tight enough. I felt like they kind of went through there, kind of maybe thinking 2 steps ahead of where they were, and just not being protective of the puck.
All fair. I also felt that every mistake that Colorado made ended up in their net.
Boom.
So now we can blame the goalie, Gorgiev. Clearly, the coaching staff did because they pulled him.
Mm-hmm.
We talked here, and I'll say it again this year because this holds true. They need a goalie.
They do.
Because they're good enough to win.
Yeah.
They need a goalie.
Yep. Look, Pierre, I wouldn't be surprised if they do something by Thanksgiving. That's just me guessing here, but it's something they have to address. We know they tried to address it last year. They didn't, and you remember Georgiev was great against Winnipeg, but then, you know, the wheels fell off. So
yeah, no, Gorgiev's a good goalie. I just think he's a backup. I don't think he's a starting goalie.
Me neither.
And so I think that's a problem. And, you know, Mikko Rantanen, you're going to see all these guys. Nathan McKinnon, they're going to score. They're going to score a whack of goals. They're probably going to score close to 310 goals this year.
Yeah.
They are. I'm just telling you.
I know.
But if you give up 6 every night and you score 5, you lose.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll see what happens there. All right, let's look ahead to the games tonight. Of course, we are here at the Boston TD Garden, Montreal Canadiens and the Boston Bruins. As you pointed out, the Canadiens coming in off a game last night, an emotional win. They get in late last night. You would look at it and say the Bruins have the edge because they were rested and they're going to be ticked off in their first game. They're going to want to bounce back. Jeremy Swayman starting. You got the home crowd here. It's a home opener. But I'm going to say this, Pierre, right now. I'm a little worried about Swayman tonight. He didn't play one game in the preseason. He had one practice, and it was down in Florida the day before they opened the season on Tuesday. He's human. There's going to be rust. So if I'm the Bruins right now, even though he is a wonderful goalie, he's going to be great this year, I think. I get the defense together, the whole team defense, and say, guys, there might be moments we need to be there for him as he's been there for us in the past.
Yeah, well, they might say that, but here's what I'm going to be looking for. Boston's mad because of the way they played in Florida the other night. They weren't good.
That game wasn't as close as a score. Let's be real.
They know they weren't good.
Yeah.
So they know they owe the coach and the management one, and they know they owe the fans one. That's number one. So they know that. The second thing is they know Montreal played last night, and they gave up almost 50 shots.
Yep.
The first 5 minutes of this game, you know how they talk about blitzing the team early?
Mm-hmm.
Montreal better have their the bonnets buckled up. Easy for me to say. I'm telling you, they're going to come after them.
Yeah, I agree.
The first 5 to 7 minutes of this game is going to be mayhem. And if it's not, Boston will not win.
Yep.
I'm telling you right now, they won't. But if it is, they'll win. They'll win tonight.
As a former coach, Pierre, so you made a good point there. I mean, obviously Montreal was outplayed, and they don't make it out of that game with a win. If not for Montembeault, they give up 54 shots. You know they're going to want to tighten things up, right? Is there sometimes a risk coming out of a game like that where you're going to be extra focused on pushing things to the outside and not, as you said, not giving those point-blank shots, that you almost do that too much and you don't attack enough?
Well, yeah, but again, I think they'll be on their heels, not because they want to be,
just because of
Boston's going to force them to be.
Mm-hmm.
So this takes me back to the 2013 Stanley Cup final here in Boston, about, I don't know, a couple hundred yards away from where we're sitting right now. And I'll never forget Claude Julien on the bench. I reported it live on NBC saying, fellas, we're on our heels. We got to get on our toes. And then all of a sudden Chicago scores to tie the game. And he keeps saying, guys, we got to get on our toes. We got to get on our toes. We're on our heels. And boom, they score again.
Yeah.
And it's over. They lose.
It's froze.
Rather than go to Chicago for a game 7, they lose in 6.
Yep.
And I'm telling you, that's going to be Montreal's thing tonight. If Montreal's not on their toes tonight early, they're going to be in trouble.
They're going to be in trouble. All right, well, we will see what happens in that game, and we will be here together watching that. Looking forward to it. Let's head north to Buffalo, Pierre. And you had an interesting point yesterday, and for our listeners and viewers that didn't hear it or didn't see yesterday's episode, tell them right now where the LA Kings have been residing for the last 9 days.
They stayed in the Eastern time zone. I mean, they were in Quebec City, and rather than go all the way back after they played Boston in a preseason game, they stayed in the East. They got acclimated to the time zone, obviously. They came together, probably a lot of team-building exercises. I'm sure they had some serious quality practices.
Team bonding.
Jimmy Miller, with all that stuff. So they're going to be ready to go. And
on the flip side,
think about Buffalo. They were overseas, tough. And they were there for a long time. They lost twice to New Jersey, tough. Now they come back here to the East Coast, and they're playing against a rested team. I don't think it's an easy thing. I know it's home opener for Buffalo, but Jimmy, what did Scotty tell us the other day? They're giving tickets away in Buffalo because I don't think the fans trust the process.
No. Well, they think they're done with the process. They want a new process.
Well, they want to get going. They haven't 13 years, no playoffs. 13 years. They don't want that anymore.
Yeah. So that's a long rebuild. All right, let's go around. Let's see what else we got tonight. The Florida Panthers, 1-0, as we mentioned, beat the Bruins on Tuesday. They head north to Ottawa. Now, we know, Pierre, a ton of excitement around the Ottawa Senators this year. Can this finally be the year they get over the hump and make the playoffs? Linus Ullmark is now locked in with his extension. There's a ton of excitement there, but they are playing the Florida Panthers, who, as they showed the Boston Bruins the other night, are still the defending Stanley Cup champions. This is a game I'm going to be paying attention to as we're in the press box here. Pierre, what do you like about this game?
One of the most important things, if Ottawa's going to win that game, Brady Tkachuk has to keep it on the rails. Whenever he plays against Matthew, it's always the extra. He wants to go the extra. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes it gets him into trouble, and it becomes too much of an emotional thing, and the guys get off the script. But he's mature now. He's married. He's mature. He's built a home. Like, his life has changed for the good, not the worst. If he can keep it on the rails, that should be an excellent hockey game. It really should. The one thing is, Jake Sanderson, I'm looking for him to really elevate this year. He may even go ahead of Tommy Shabbat on the depth chart. And if he does, and he has that stopping power, I think that makes a big difference. That makes a huge difference for Ottawa. If Jake can play ahead of Tommy Shabbat.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the deep pairings right now. That's the guy I want to ask you for, because you mentioned him over in the offseason a couple times. Tyler Klevin, what can you tell us about him?
Big physical defenseman, can play left or right, but he's way better playing on the left. I saw him play a ton at North Dakota. I really tried to recruit him. I went out there many times. The same year we took Sanderson out of there. The year after we took Pinto out of there. I tried to get him to leave early, not because we didn't trust the process at Dakota. We did, but we wanted to get him his pro career going. The college game was too easy for him because he was too big and too strong. Wanted to really challenge him, but he chose to stay for another year at Dakota. He came out last year. I wasn't there, obviously, but he's a good physical player. He's a tremendous character person. Just has to do things a little quicker. Everything's got to just be a little quicker for him. Not skating-wise, a good skater. Just moving the puck quicker, making quicker reads, being quicker to close the gap on guys. Just got to do that.
All right. Well, let's go around. We got a lot of games tonight, Pierre. In New Jersey, you referenced it earlier, Sheldon Keefe facing his former team in their season opener. The Toronto Maple Leafs are in town after being in Montreal last night. You would think same thing. The Devils are going to try and capitalize on them playing last night. And I think obviously Sheldon Keefe wants to get a win here. And I think the Leafs want to beat their old coach. So how does it end up?
Can you imagine if the Leafs go there and lose tonight?
Ooh.
And so home opener Saturday night against Pittsburgh with Sidney coming probably 0-2 for Sid.
Yeah.
This is a tough way for Craig Berube to start his coaching career in Toronto. And I'm not laughing at him. I'm trying to make it a little lighter for everybody there because this is tough. I think Jersey's got a chance to be one of the most improved teams in the league. which is great for Tommy Fitz. It's great for Sheldon Keefe. But if they're not one of the most improved teams in the league, it's not good for either guy.
Yeah.
Because that's the expectation. Yep. So it's good. This is going to be a good one. The biggest thing for me is Jersey's defense is better because Dougie's there, right? Brett Pesce's there. I just think Brendan Dillon's there. Their defense is better. It's better, and they're going to get Hughes back at some point. So on defense, so they're better there. For Toronto, Austin can't get shut out. Marner can't get shut out. Nylander. I didn't like Nylander's game last night, Jimmy. I don't know what you thought of it.
Yeah,
he's got they call him Willie Styles. I guess that's his nickname. I don't care about all that stuff. You got to bring some physicality. He's got to bring some game.
Yep.
Compete, get his feet moving. He didn't do that last night.
I'm with you on that. What did you think overall, by the way? Sorry to just go back to that quick. I forgot to ask you, Pierre. Did you see in their game at all at certain points the Berube effect, so to speak, coming out and, them playing his trademark game?
No, I did not
see
see
it
that.
either. Yeah.
I didn't see that last night at all. And I do think eventually they will start to do it. I sent Jimmy a text last night. I said, Craig Berube's a really good coach. I'm not sure all the players there understand the way he wants them to play.
Yeah.
That's what I sent to Jimmy last night because I'm
asked.
watching them. They don't let guys off the hook there. When you play for Berube, you don't let guys off the hook, and they let a lot of guys off the hook last night.
I don't think he's going to be too afraid to bench anybody, regardless of their star power here.
He's got 30 games to get their attention.
Yep.
I'm just telling you, he's got 30 games to get their attention. And if he doesn't, I think you're going to start to see some people moved out of there.
Yep. All right. We shall see. Let's go around. We've got the Utah Hockey Club playing their first official road game on Long Island against the New York Islanders. Pierre, the Islanders are another team we don't really expect to make the playoffs, though. Patrick Waugh, you never know with him behind the bench. That could change things. I was very impressed with Utah in their first game ever in Utah. But then again, I think the home crowd had a lot to do with that. Now they're on the road. What are they going to go to become 2-0?
I just think play with the same enthusiasm. Saw so much enthusiasm. You were talking about Toronto, and was that what Craig Berube was expecting? I think Michel Tournier, the coach in Utah, was expecting exactly what he saw.
Yep.
And I think he's going to want to see the same thing on the road. That's going to be the ultimate challenge for Utah because they're spoiled at home.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to be spoiled all year. They've got a captive, fun, lively audience. It's a tremendous place. Just the TV pictures were amazing. They were amazing.
That's great.
So those guys are going to be spoiled at home. The question for them is, can you get it done on the road?
Yeah.
And if they can get it done on the road, then it's going to be fine. But if they can't, they're going to be life and death to make the playoffs.
I totally agree. Pittsburgh Penguins, we referenced their game tonight at Detroit. Detroit's home opener, Detroit's season opener. Just like Ottawa, tons of expectations around the Red Wings right now to finally get over the hump. And we're in agreement. If Dylan Larkin doesn't get hurt, they probably would have done that last year. But that's in the past. They're looking forward now. They've got a chance to really send the Penguins into an early season spiral here, Pierre.
No question. You know what I'm looking forward to seeing, and I don't know, Jimmy, maybe you know who he's playing with tonight, but I want to see what Vladdy Tarasenko does for them. I think that there's potential there with Kane, with Tarasenko, with Dylan Larkin. They've got some offensive jam that could really be lethal in the Eastern Conference, especially in the Atlantic Division. But to me, some people will question the depth of their defense, Jimmy, and some people will question their goaltending. I think their defense is a little bit better than what people give it credit for.
Agree.
Simon Edvinson's going to have a huge year, I believe. Moritz Seider's going to have a big year for them. And I just think there's veteran presence. Ben Sherratt's there, obviously. So I don't have an issue with their defense, but I think what's going to help them a ton is there's more offensive support there this year than what we've seen in years past. Mm-hmm. And, look at it. Mason Raymond, Patrick Kane, Dylan Larkin, Tarasenko. You got a lot of weaponry there.
Yeah, this is their top six left to right now. First line, DeBrincat, Larkin, Raymond, and then you got Tarasenko, Comfort, and Kane. That's a good top six.
I mean, that's top six. And you think I even forgot about DeBrincat and the chemistry that he has, obviously, with Kane, going back to their time in Chicago. But no, this is going to be interesting to watch this thing in Detroit. They have to make the playoffs.
They do.
I really believe they have to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Because the fan base is getting angry. And it's the first time in a long time we've seen a fan base in Detroit angry.
Yep. But they care. That's what I love. They're a great, passionate fan base. They will make the playoffs in my prediction. I'm saying it right now. All right, here we go. Moving along, the let's go to the Stars and Predators. This is going to be another good one for an opener, Pierre. Obviously, the Predators, a ton of hype around them with all the moves they made in the offseason. Steven Stamkos, for the first time in his NHL career, will be stepping onto the ice in a regular season in another uniform other than the Tampa Bay Lightning. That's got to be strange for him, Pierre, but also exciting.
It's weird for all of us. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
Steven's amazing. I'm a big fan. You get to know all these guys over the years, and whether it's World Junior, international events, Stanley Cup final, All-Star weekends, whatever, you get to know. I'm not sure there's as competitive a guy as Steven Stamkos in the league. He's such a competitive person. It's weird to see him playing and wearing a Nashville uniform, but I think he's a perfect tonic for what ails them, and that's more offense. And then you add Jonathan Marchessault to the equation. And, you look at Philip Forsberg, and you think about Gustav Nyquist and, Ryan O'Reilly. They got weaponry there, Jimmy.
Oh, yeah.
They got weaponry. They've got goaltending. They've got a great coach. Andrew Burnett and his staff are really good. I think they have an outstanding general manager in Barry Trotz, who's not afraid to do stuff, as we've seen. He's not afraid to do stuff. So this is going to be a really good game tonight between Dallas and Nashville, because I think most people know Dallas is legit. They're deep up front.
They're a contender.
They're deep on defense. They've got a good goalie in Jake Ottinger. They got an outstanding coach in Pete DeBoer. They're a legitimate contender for the Cup. They're a legitimate contender for the Cup. Big early test for Nashville.
For sure. And then we go over to Columbus. Blue Jackets go into Minnesota to play the Minnesota Wild. And, of course, we all know the tragedy that happened for the Columbus Blue Jackets in the offseason with Johnny Gaudreau and his brother. But on the flip side of the ice there, a lot of Minnesota Wild are an interesting team to watch right now. I think we talk about pressure being on some teams there, and I think the pressure's on with this team right now because nobody really knows what they are. And I don't know if they do. They need to figure it out. But I'm going to be watching them closely as we go through the first couple months of this season.
The guy to watch for is Marco Rossi. If Marco Rossi can handle the first line minutes that they're expecting to handle, and they can play Joel Eriksson-Ek in the second line, and him have some offensive success and shut people down, then I think they're going to have an opportunity to be pretty successful. Now, there's one thing to remember about them, Jimmy. They got $15 million more to spend next year.
That's right.
The Suter Parisi stuff is gone after this year.
That's a great point.
So people have to remember that when you're evaluating their team. It's unfortunate. It's just the reality of the buyouts and everything else. So that's $15 million at dead cap space. Jimmy, that's hard.
That's tough to deal with. And you know what? On that note, too, I hope that Guerin, our good friend Billy Guerin, is, I don't want to say not a free pass, but that's taken into consideration if they aren't able to make the playoffs this year, because let's see what he can do with that money next year. We'll see.
No, I think they know as a group they're going to be okay.
Yeah.
This year, I think ownership understands where they are. They're going to have to. Yep. There's some people they're going to have to sign after this year, but they'll be able to do that, I think. I'm happy Marc-Andre Fleury is going to play one more year there. That's another evolving story. They got Jesper Wallstedt, who's the heir apparent, signed to a 2-year extension. He's a really good player, future, very good goalie. So there's a lot of positives going on there.
Yeah,
I think in Minnesota, it's never a boring place to go watch a game.
Oh, I bet. I'll tell you, I like that third line. They got.
Is great.
Yep, Marcus Foligno, Ryan Hartman, and your guy that you were raving about at the trade deadline when Colorado got him last year, Yakov Trenin. That is a tough third line to play against, Pierre.
It is. It really is. And if they start running around and bashing people and playing within the rules, whistle, they're going to influence the outcome. Now, I'm going to tell you, I talked to Jimmy about this before we came on the air. There were two things that stood out to me last night. 2 third lines. Will Cully, Philip Hedl, Kakko in New York. They stood out. In Winnipeg, Niederreiter, Lowry, and Appleton. So I'm just we talked about trends with Scotty, and he was talking about the importance of having depth defensemen and physicality. One of the things that's becoming apparent as we start the season here, those depth forwards, those third line players matter. Like Cooley, Hedl, and Kakko mattered last night.
Yep.
Niederreiter, Lowry, Appleton mattered last night. And so you bring that lineup in Minnesota. If those guys can make an impact, those guys matter. Players like that kind of line matters, and I think it's something to pay attention to. You know, as I look at Boston, is Brazo going to be a third-line player? Probably.
Yep.
Frederick going to be a third-line player? Probably. Who's going to be the third-line center? When he's healthy, probably Poitras.
Yes.
Okay. So that's a pretty good third line. It's got physicality, it's got size, it's got skating ability, it's got finishing ability. Like it's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But that line has to be there.
They do.
They got to bring it.
Yep. And I'm interested. Do they put Frederick or Poitras in the middle there? You know, that's what I'm interested in.
I don't think Frederick will be put in the middle. I think it'll be Poitras.
He's just there now because of injury. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm with you on that. You know, that's the thing I'm going to do, I think, Pierre, for the first months of the season. I'm going to study third lines and get back to you in like a month from now and be like, okay, this is who I think has the top 3 third lines in the NHL. It's a little exercise I'll do for us. So we'll look into that.
I like
all
it.
Right.
Good.
You know, because it matters. It matters. It's huge in the playoffs. So, all right. Before we get to our Q&A, which should be fun today, because, of course, our question is today is, what is your favorite Bruins Habs memory? It can be from either side of the rivalry. Doesn't matter. We've got a ton. I've posted mine. I'll talk about them here. Pierre's got one he wants to talk about. But for everyone there, I see some of them lining up here. Definitely keep coming with those, and we'll read them. And you heard some clips I played coming in. That was fun. Of course, PK Subban kissing Pierre McGuire. That was classic. That was great. What a moment. I was right there, too. I watched it happen in person. It was fun. Anyhow, but before we get to that, we're going to tell you about our good friends Betway. And Betway, as you know, is the leading global online betting and gaming brand. Follow your gut instinct. Go with Betway. Go to betway.com right now, or if you're watching us here live on YouTube, scan that QR code right there to join the action. Of course, you must be 18 plus and play responsibly. And here's a new thing I'm going to start here. I'm going to do it every day. Murph's Betway pick of the night, and my Betway pick of the night tonight is the LA Kings in Buffalo on the money line to beat the Buffalo Sabres. I love that they've been there. I think that time difference thing you referenced is going to play a role. I think the combination of that and the pressure and the heat being on Buffalo isn't a good recipe right now for them. So give me the LA Kings in Buffalo to win tonight. All right, let's get to the Q&A. What do we got? Oh, Shane with a video question here. Let's go.
Have some fun today at the Boston Gardens. I'm not sure what they call it now because I keep up with the newest arena trend names. This question's for Pierre. A friend of mine's son, who I helped coach back when he was 10 years old, had a PTO with the Ottawa Senators. He was cut, didn't make the team. What do they do? What do these players do to move forward with their careers? Do their agents call overseas? Are they looking for work in the AHL? I don't understand what happens next. And we're talking about Kalen Addison. He was a phenomenal kid as a youth hockey player. He's a phenomenal kid. And yeah, I'm hoping that he can find work somewhere because truly he was meant for this game. And he is one of those stories where at 10 years old he's skating circles.
Good stuff. I love Shane's questions.
Yeah, Shane's great. First of all, I know Kalen Addison is a player, Pittsburgh Penguin guy, and then he gets moved to Minnesota. And part of the reason he gets moved to Minnesota is there's some Pittsburgh Penguin people that were working in Minnesota. And then he eventually moves on to San Jose and then gets the PTO in Ottawa. Probably the biggest problem for Kalen is size. He's not overly large, plays defense. He's what you would call a tweener. So I would say at this point is the agent's got to get involved. There'll be American Hockey League opportunities. I talked to 2 American League players today, as a matter of fact, that just got out of practice. They're contract players for NHL teams, and they're already been sent down. So American League camps are going. They're playing exhibition games right now in the American League. And I would imagine that if you can't get a deal there, Kalen, I can tell you, Jimmy, I'm very comfortable saying this, he would be a spectacular player over in Europe. Yeah. He would do amazingly well. But do I think he can play pro hockey? Yeah, absolutely, I do. And if I were his agent, I'd be exploring American League opportunities and opportunities in Europe because he can play in both leagues easily.
Good stuff. All right, what do we got next? Alex Ivanovsky, I've watched a lot of Penguins games. Mike Sullivan needs to go. He's a great coach, but he's not the right fit anymore. He needs to go coach a young, skillful speed team. It's time. Do you disagree?
Jimmy, I'll let you handle that. I never talk about coaches' longevity. I just don't think it's appropriate for me, having been part of the fraternity for so long.
I will say this. I do not wish anyone to get fired, but I do understand the frustration amongst fans with the situation in Pittsburgh. And unfortunately, given that the GM just got there and it wasn't his coach, if they go into a deep slide here in the month of October, I don't think it looks good for him. I don't want that to happen. I'm just being honest. I'm giving you my opinion of what could happen. They need to get on track here fast, or, those things can happen. And it's unfortunately, as we've seen with so many coaches losing their jobs over the last calendar year, it's going to be the coach first, not a player, not a GM. It's going to be the coach.
This is a team that's missed the playoffs 2 straight years. I told Jimmy when we started the eye test that I didn't like their roster. I didn't like the lineup at all last year. I don't think the lineup's much better this year. I feel bad that they don't have Brian Rust. I feel real bad they don't have Jake Gensel. So I think it's a big problem. It's a big problem. I just don't think there's enough artillery there right now to be a playoff team.
Yeah, well, I hope they can fix it. We'll see. All right, next question. Randy Workman, Jimmy and Pierre, if you're a Canucks fan, are you concerned with the effort yesterday? I don't know if concerns were, but yeah, they need to tighten up for sure, as we said earlier.
I think it's normal. First game, they weren't ready to play at certain point. They were ready to play actually to start the game. They weren't ready to play in the middle part of the game. They
didn't get saves.
Comfy, cozy, and Seeloffs was in goal. It wasn't Thatcher Demko, and it wasn't Casey DeSmith, who's playing in Dallas as a backup right now. So, there's a lot. But here's one thing I'm really comfortable with: Rick Tocchet, Sergei Gonchar, and Adam Foote. They'll get that fixed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very comfortable saying that.
For sure. All right, next question. A to Z me. It's only one game, but what are the odds you give Montembeault at making Team Canada? He looked really good last night. Pierre, I think he's got just as good a chance as anyone.
Well, that's going to be the biggest question mark about the Canadian roster, because nobody's going to question their forwards.
I think it's wide open.
Nobody's going to question their defense, and I think that's the only position where you can say, who's going to be the guy that's going to be the goaltender for Canada? So he's got to be in the discussion.
Oh, yeah.
Unless Brodeur or Luongo come back or Carey Price gets healthy. I mean, I don't think those guys are going to be able to play. So it comes down to, who's going to be the new guy that can step in and deliver for Canada in a pressurized environment.
Yep, I agree. Next question. Filterless Bear. Did Jack Eye obtain the belt by Reeves turning down his fight offer last night? I don't know. But Pierre said it. He had a good game. He definitely had a good game.
Oh, I thought Arbor played very well. And part of it was he kept his composure.
Mm-hmm.
If the other guy wants to oblige him, that's fine.
Yep.
The one thing I'll say, anybody that's courageous enough to fight Ryan Reeves, they get a check mark by their name. and Arbor's really tough. I get it.
Yeah.
Ryan Reeves is not just tough. He's crazy tough.
And he's legit. He could be a boxer.
I've been watching this kid since he's really young in St. Louis, and there were times where I think Ken Hitchcock would look over and be like, what am I going to do with this guy? I got to control this guy. I really respect Ryan and the way he plays. I had a good relationship when he was in St. Louis, and, he moved around. People forget Ryan Reeves moved. There was a time there where he was moving around a fair bit.
Yes.
And I think that maybe some people thought that the fighting part was going to get out of the game, and it's amazing how we talk about trends all the time, right, Jimmy?
Mm-hmm.
That trend, the fighting part's coming back.
It really is. All right, next question. Alex Ivanovsky. What's up, Alex? Colorado, I feel like, is at a crossroads in their championship window. They got an unbelievable core group, but their goaltending, their inability to finish has hurt them. What area is more of need?
Oh, I would definitely say the goaltending. Mikko Rantanen had 3 goals last night. Nathan McKinnon can still score. He's got chemistry, obviously. Really good chemistry with Jonathan Drouin. I think Casey Middleton, or Middlestad, excuse me. Ricky Middleton, I'm here in Boston. Casey Middlestad can score, and he did last night. I think Ross Colton's a really good depth scorer. They've got. I don't worry about their offense there in Colorado. I think it's more about the goaltending.
And, I think you said it yesterday or the day before. You said they could use another good stout defenseman.
Oh, yeah, no, they could definitely use one more stout defenseman. And again, McGuire gives you a lot of offense. Sammy Girard gives you some offense. Devon Taves gives you some offense. It's not just the forwards. They get offense from a lot of different places.
Yep.
They're still a good team, but the goalie's got to get fixed.
Yep. All right, next question. Ron LaRoque. Question: what is the most unique hockey name you can remember? Me, Hack and Lube, Calgary Flames, with the square Jofa helmet. I'm going, and here's mine. You might have coached him. Zarly Zalapski.
I did. I coached Zarly. I was part of trading Zarly away, too. The late Zarly Zalapski. Zarly passed away a few years ago, unbelievably. He was one of the fittest guys I ever coached. He was unbelievably fit, Jimmy. He's a former Montreal Canadian. People forget that.
That's right.
Played in Montreal. Zarly did. No, you know what? That's a good name. Zarly would have been a really interesting name. I'd have to think about that for a while. There's so many over the course of time. Peanuts O'Flaherty would be a good one.
Peanuts O'Flaherty.
Billy O'Flaherty, our good friend, his father's nickname was Peanuts O'Flaherty. Played in the National Hockey League.
Do you know how he got it or no?
Well, he wasn't very big.
That's awesome.
So I'm going to say that out of deference to my good friend, Coach O'Flaherty, who was a legendary coach at
We
Clarkson.
hope you're watching, Billy. We miss you.
We do. I actually was talking to the coach today.
Oh, he's
so I'm
a great
going to go
man.
with Peanuts O'Flaherty.
All right. And gives me an idea, and I'll say it here on the air, Pierre. I just actually got a text back. We're trying to get Ben Barr on campus tomorrow. Maine's coaching the same time we're on. Maybe we should get Coach O'Flaherty to join us.
I'm going to call Coach O'Flaherty right after we're done with this. How's that?
Let's do that.
It'd be good.
He's always fun. Oh, here's one. Pizza 603 says Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. There you go. However you spell it. I think you nailed it, Pizza 603. Actually, I think that is the spelling.
UPL.
So, good job. UPL.
You know what they say, UPL.
All right, next question. Randy Workman, who's the best clutch player ever? Who would you want on the ice when it matters? That's a great question.
66 from Pittsburgh. Come on. Come on. That's not even a fair question. Come
I'd
on.
say 87 in
66.
Pittsburgh.
I hate 87 would defer to 66.
I know he would. I know.
Here's what I would say to the fans. Go watch some of the tape from the 87 Canada Cup. Go watch some of the tape from the 1991 Stanley Cup playoffs. Watch some of the tape from the 1992 Stanley Cup playoffs. Watch some of the tape from the 93 President's Trophy winning team. Go watch the tape from the 2002 Winter Olympics in Salt Lake City and watch what 66 does.
Yep.
Gretz knows if anybody's passing this on to Gretz, I'm not ripping him apart because he was unbelievably clutch too. But I have an affinity to 66 kid. I worked with him.
Yeah, I know. And you know what? Me close up. I'm just going to keep it to the Bruins. Growing up, I'd have to say Bork. Bork was clutch when it counted for the Bruins for a stretch there. He could really do it. Some of those playoff runs, he was huge.
I mean, yeah, that's fair. That's good.
Just from what I saw as a fan growing up.
Not against Pittsburgh in 91 and 92.
You shut him down good, Pierre.
No, the guys did, and they followed the plan to the letter. I'm telling you, Jimmy.
He was the target. I mean, that's how you beat the Bruins.
You cannot pay higher praise to a player in the NHL if you don't have a plan for a player. And we had a huge plan to play Raymond Bork. I'm just telling you, anybody that was in our dressing rooms, I know I was doing the meetings.
Yep.
They would tell you they were very animated meetings, and they were animated towards one person.
I hear you.
That's all I can tell you.
All right, next question. Postnet on 30. Which team in the East and West have improved the most over the last year? I look in the West just on paper, I'd say Nashville, just because of what they did in the offseason. In the East, that's a good question. I'm going to say Toronto. They weren't splashy moves, but they were strategic, necessary moves. That's the way I look at that.
I'm going to say New Jersey in the East.
Oh, yeah. No, you have to say New Jersey. Good call.
I'm going to say New Jersey.
Markstrom.
I agree on Toronto, too, by the way, but I'm going to say New Jersey. With Dylan going there, with Markstrom going there, with Pesce going there, I think Jersey got better.
Stefan Noesen already scored.
Yes,
another
Stefan
addition.
Noesen's there. Yep. So I'm going to say Jersey. And in the West, I like what Jimmy said, but I might go Utah.
Ooh, there you go.
Go Utah, Jimmy.
All right. We're liking Utah here. There we go.
Nashville was,
Nashville
was a playoff team last year, and I think they will be this year. Utah was not a playoff team last year, and I think they will be this year.
I agree. All right, next question. John Smith, Isles fan here. I feel like I'm back in the dark ages. Millbury, not many kids coming. Big salaries, great goalie, but not much hope. Your thoughts on the direction this team is going in? Well, I don't remember the great goalie from Millbury. I remember one they're still paying.
They took one in the first overall pick, Rick DiPietro. From Boston University, right down the street from where we are
right now. And the St. kid too, but it didn't exactly work out here.
No, I'm aware. I was pretty opinionated on the contract they gave him.
Yeah,
I don't think that was well received by ownership.
Do him and Bobby Bonilla they go out for drinks together since they got those checks to keep coming?
I would never ever fault a player for getting.
Oh yeah, I don't fault him for that.
That's not his fault. That's not
good
his
for him.
fault.
Good for him.
100%. Never fault. I never fault players for what they can get.
All right. Well, we got the questions are done, so now we're going to get into the memories. I see some of the ones you guys are saying there, some great ones. But Pierre, I'll let you start. Your greatest Bruins has memory.
1971 Game 2 in Old Boston Garden. 5-1. The Bruins were up on the Montreal Canadiens. That was a Canadiens team that was being coached by Al McNeil. The players weren't sure. Ken Dryden was a kid out of Cornell University. He got lit up like a Roman candle in Game 2. And Jean Beliveau put on a show. He had 4 points in the game, 2 goals in the third period to get the Canadiens back in the game, 5-3. John Ferguson was a huge influence in that game as well. John Ferguson and Jean Beliveau were so tight together on the ice. And everybody feared John, the late John Ferguson. He was a great player. I was 10 years old watching that at my uncle's house. I'll never forget it as long as I live. And it still sits with me to this day. I don't need any notes to look at it. I don't need to watch the tape. I remember the goals going in. And for the Bruins, Bobby Orr in that game was off the charts. McKenzie had a black eye in that game. I remember it all. It was unbelievable. I was 10 years old, Jimmy. I remember it to this day. That's 53 years later. 53 years later.
Wow. Well, I got 2, Pierre. I'm going to say one from each side. From the Bruins side, I was at a game 1990. Actually, it was the year you guys beat the Bruins again in the conference final. 1992, Game 4, Bruins-Canadiens in the Old Garden. The Bruins swept the Canadiens.
Yeah.
Yep. And then you swept the Bruins.
Yep.
But all I remember, and I told this story last year, and I'll tell it again, there's a guy next to me who brought in a Canadian shirt, a Patrick Waugh shirt, and when Peter Doris scored with about 20 seconds left, empty netter, the place is going nuts, he says, hold this shirt, pulls out a lighter, lights it on fire, and grabs it from me and threw it on the ice on fire, and Patrick Waugh is like waving to come over and put it out. So, it was unreal. It was unreal.
Don't go too fast. Peter Duras is a star out of University of New Hampshire. He was he was an original Anaheim Mighty Duck.
Yeah.
He was a
great depth player. Good depth. He could fly.
He was a really good depth player. I think he scored a hat trick against my team in Anaheim one night.
Yep. There we go. And then Montreal side, I'm going to go when PK Subban scored that goal in Game 3 of that series we referenced earlier, 2014. He comes out of the box and goes in alone on Rask. For me, I never heard the bell center louder than that moment. That was insane. You did that series too, Pierre.
I did. What I would just say, if you can, for all the people that are watching, you really like hockey, Montreal Canadiens hockey, Boston Bruins hockey, go watch that 71 series. It ended in 7 games. The Canadiens won in 7. They won Game 7 here, in Boston, not in this building. But you see so many star players like Yvon Cornway, Jacques Laperriere, Jean Bell. That's the last cup the late Jean Beliveau ever won as a player. Now, that wasn't the series they won it in. They beat Chicago that year in Chicago in a Game 7. Al McNeil was the coach. It's the last time Al ever coached the Montreal Canadiens. He eventually was a head coach in Calgary. But after they won the cup, Al was sent to coach their American League team because there was a guy that we know that was coming in from St. Louis.
Yep.
William Scott Bowman. So
good, Scotty.
I would say you ever, and it's on YouTube, you can go watch it. Sometimes when I'm really looking for a hockey fix, I go watch some of those old series and the names and the players, and it's just awesome to watch.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, I am excited, Pierre. Glad you're here. Looking forward to watching the game with you. And for everyone out there, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We will line up an on-campus guest tomorrow. We'll make it happen, and we will see you tomorrow here on the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.